All right. So what I'm going to do, let's just pick, we'll pick two-stage heat. Drop
Okay.
in this manpower box.
Sweet.
All right. Set up our layer. It's locked. Go ahead and lock this guy down. All right. Can't move it. So let's copy this guy. And we'll grab our damper. And I'm going to we'll just grab 0. What I'm going to do is just kind of get it close. Hold control down and delete it. See how it jumped? Undo.
Yep.
Delete. Undo. There it is. Ooh, one more. There we go. Delete, undo, delete, undo. It doesn't jump. And that's kind of how I do it. And then I'm going to go lock that down because I don't want to move it. So we'll go ahead. Well, first, before I do that, let's go ahead and add our binding. I would relativize it now, but we won't do that. We don't have a view for it yet. We can always do that later. And then we'll go animate this. And this is the aggravating part. I really love doing this. So I'll just copy this, right? And then add a bunch. And then I'm going to paste this, and then just say 10, right?
Yep.
And there's no getting around it. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a module that just said, hey, I'm going to, this is a numeric. Yes. Give me 10 and just create these and then do an arbitrary min max and let me just go set them, right?
Yep.
That would, whoops. Let's do 0, delete 4. All right. Probably run out. Yeah, this, I hate this. I think I did 5 already. Yeah. Well, with a passion. But, this is what, you do this over and over and over. And, after, 200 stations, yeah, you just got kind of autopilot, right?
I thought about this, Louis. When I was looking at the how normally like that little icon in the after the value in the top right. I was like, oh man, is that a way to import? I'm like, oh no, that just resets the field. That just resets the
Yeah. So see 0, I'm going to do 0 to 1%, right? But 1, and then these are offsets. So 20 is really 10, right?
Yep.
Oops. 80. Yep. 100. Oops.
Yeah, if you remove the final
yeah,
one.
My bad. Yeah, my bad. I added too many. Remove. All right. All right. And then that's done. So we'll go ahead and lock that guy. Oops. That would have worked anyway. All right. Actions. Let's set this to 50%. And there it is. Actions, set this to 100%.
There you go.
And then we'll set this, we'll leave it there. So heat. So this is 2-stage heat. So I'll pick my 2-stage first stage. And these are pretty simple. So what I'm going to do, let's create new Boolean writable, and we'll call it heat. Oops.
While you're typing that out, one thing that I appreciate that you did that I think a lot of people would not have thought about is they would have actually gone to Kit PX and they would have brought in like a numeric image and then do it that way. Whereas
that takes forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you brought it in and then you added a value binding and animated.
I just copy it. I'm constantly scrolling, copying, looking at points, and then copying what I need, and then coming down to my images. Right. Yeah, and working that way. I can't stand going through menus, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
When I drag this image out, it's kind of ready to go. I just need a label. I don't need a bound label. I don't need anything. I just need a simple label. I don't need a picture widget. Picture widgets cost, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they do cost. So bound label, it costs. And especially if you're using a bound label, there's kind of no point. You're going to bind it anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I just a standard label. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab 100 out so we can see it. And let's zoom in a little bit. So that being said, we've got that. We're just going to leave that there for now. We're going to grab 2-stage second heat, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to grab that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to copy that layout. These are identical. They lay over the top of each other, so I can just paste this in here, right? And now I have both stages. And important, pay attention to your widget tree. Not many people pay too much attention to their widget tree. It's a lot easier to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And we'll animate this. Let's see. This is 100 for false. Nope. So we're just gonna. I'm not gonna do an off state. There's no point.
Yeah.
If you want, sure, but the less images that load, especially if this is on a JACE, the better. Not a lot of BAS systems allow you to null the false value. I do include off states, but they're kind of not needed in Niagara, which is nice.
Yep.
And, I didn't think about that when I started a lot of this stuff, and a lot of my old stuff don't have off states because I just, I'm a Niagara guy. That's second stage, and we'll go animate that and just delete that false value. And then now we got that, so we can get out of edit mode, and then actions, set, and make that true. And we can actually, let's go ahead and turn this one on, and then turn the first one off. So these are masked, so you can see both states no matter what. And we'll do a Boolean. And grab our fan on. Oops. Perfect. And then we'll animate that. And then that completes this graphic. I think I have a dirty filter. Yeah, I do, but they typically don't.
Yeah.
Actually.
Filter. There you go. Filter status off of the VAV.
Yeah, but what you could do, you can laugh, but you can go ahead and create a maintenance schedule. And if the maintenance schedule is change your filters, right? Because they're supposed to change them, and they're supposed to change them in the fall, right? Every year. Because now I don't know how many times I've crawled up in there, right, and found that thing sucked up into the right. Well, and this is a series fan card box, so yeah.
Yep.
Found that thing sucked up into there. So let's action state active. Let's just make that permanent.
There we go.
So widgets, right? Like these points, how am I going to command them? That kind of thing. We'll go ahead and let's do on off. And then in here we'll go, save it. Do that. Save it. And then we'll do that. And then here we'll just do percentage. And I got a question.
Yep.
In facets, and customers ask me this quite a bit. They're like, I don't know where to go. Is there any documentation to see what's inside capacitance, density, right, electric current, and all that stuff? Is there any documentation that actually shows them what's in some of this stuff? Because to me, it's intuitive, right? I already know because I've just been messing with this since, 2015. It's not intuitive to everyone.
So in the C, so if you go to your C drive, your Niagara directory, then I think it's under defaults. Then I think there is a unit. Then I think there's a units.xml.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig that up and probably print it out or format it in a way they can read it. And just be like,
I mean, you could use ChatGPT. You could use ChatGPT to say, "Hey, take this XML and put it into a spreadsheet or something."
You just hurt my feelings. I'm in art, right? So it's shaken up the art world quite a bit, and right? I mean, customers are, for site renders, they're using ChatGPT or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To build some of these campus renderings. In the end, it hallucinates, and customers are like, "No, that's not right." And you can prompt it and prompt it and prompt it, and you just keep getting a different thing every time, and it's just not right. And then they end up, paying to do it anyway, right?
Yep. No, that's absolutely right.
For now, right?
Correct.
Let's create a couple of set points. So we'll say this is awk cool set point. And then we'll say, oops, I spelled that wrong. Let's do heat. Let's rename that. So now we have a few widgets that we're going to put on that graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever that graphic went, there it is. Nope. There it is. All right.
Oh,
so we're going to create.
There.
Yeah. So let's create some widgets. So I'm going to. Whoa. Okay, so we'll just create a new one. So what I'm going to do, I'm basically going to create. In fact, let's highlight all this stuff that happens to be there. And let's make sure that that's on graphic. Good deal. All right. So we're going to make a label, and it's going to be readable, hopefully. So that's what, 40 by, let's see, 300. We'll just go with that, right? So new PX file, and we'll say read only. Point. All right. So we're going to do this 300 by 40. Let's get rid of that. All right. And normally I'll use an SVG, right, as a background or what have you, so I can get some rounded rectangles and stuff. In fact, we're just going to delete that. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the scroll pane on a PX include. Especially any PX include that I use, I remove the scroll pane and paste back the canvas, right?
Yep.
So I'll cut the canvas and paste it back in here because this is really all I need. We'll go ahead and give this let's just pick something dark, right? Just for giggles.
Yeah.
Everything. Oh, and I will set the scale factor to be twice as large. Some people may want their point widget larger, and then you don't want to have to deal, right? And this is another thing too. You could PX property till you're blue in the face, right? But if you're dragging bound labels and labels out, right, out dot values and just standard labels, like you were dragging points out, you have no consistency, right? And then you've got to sit there and and highlight that stuff and move it around your PX, right? And that can be a pain. Especially if in the end, you're doing owner training and the guy's like, hey, or the lady's like, hey, those points are too small. Can you make the font larger? And then now you've got to reorder every single little tiny label, right? And that can be a pain. So we're just going to make this semi-white, and then we're going to go foreground. And I'll expose these real quick too, as well, right? As PX properties. And then let's see, we'll just leave this alone. And then what we'll do, we'll add a variable. So I'm going to do $, and we'll just call this ord. And this can be anything, right? Everyone knows that. This could be Bob, blue, green, yellow, Matthew.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. We're going to animate that, and we're going to call this display.
It's my favorite color.
Display name. And in here, we're going to do the same thing. And then here, we're going to do the same ord, right? The same one. We don't need multiple variables for this. And there's some caveats to doing multiple variables and doing a drag and drop operation.
That's right.
You will lose your other variables. So you may want to just drag this out and start pasting stuff vanilla if you're going to have multiple variables. Because Niagara will get rid of it. All right.
Yep, I agree.
So animate. And then here we're going to do out.value, right? All right. There we go. And this is read only. So what we're going to do is we're going to false set pop-up enabled, and we're going to do that here. Or just drag a label and cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
False that. All right. So there we go. So if we come back to our our VAV, and we go to our points, we can say, okay, my damper position is read only. Let's drag that out. We're going to include PX file. Come in here, find our, where did I put that?
Widgets,
I
right?
put it in widgets, yep. And then writable or read only point. That's it. Select the ORD and press OK. And then there she comes in. So let's fix it up. Let's get our PX properties in here and let's add a font.
Oh, Fonty was great. I like that. Let me add a little Fonty. Yep.
That's right. All right. We'll just make this 18. We'll say Tahoma. We'll play it safe. We'll make it bold just for giggles. We'll go ahead and add title color. Oops.
Yeah, make it GX color. Yeah.
I'll do a brush. Yeah, brush is, I think, better. All right.
Could you explain the difference between a brush and a color for someone?
I think brushes can be strokes as well. I mean, yes. You'd be able to say it, right? Yep. Brush can be a stroke as well. I think a color cannot be a stroke.
Correct.
So I just use brush because I can use it for anything. Mm-hmm. I typically just pick brush just by default. We could change background colors, right? All this stuff. And here's one thing. Let's go ahead and get rid of this text. We'll unanimate that and we'll get rid of this because a lot of times you're not going to have a display name and no one goes in and display names them unless they've got a boss like me that forces them to display name everything, right? With a Baja name map or something in the program editor. Mm-hmm. So what I typically do is I'll go ahead and we'll go into Baja itself instead of GX, and we'll just get a string writable, right? Or a string point, not a string writable. And then we'll just call this label, right? And then now we can link that text to that label.
Yep, that's right.
And then we can also, so the title color is going to be this guy. And the font. And then we're going to make this white. And we're going to call this custom just to give it a default value, see what it looks like. We'll leave it centered for now. This guy, we're just going to do the same font and leave the color alone. But you can totally go crazy with this stuff right now. There is a caveat. This may or may not work. And in the past, I guess 4.12, 4.10, somewhere around there, we were messing around with virtuals instead of doing joins.
Yep.
And virtuals were amazing, especially with schedules, and stuff like that. So, you don't have to do a schedule import, right? You can just go right down to the JS, change a schedule, and it's immediate, right? I don't think PX properties from PX includes will come in on virtuals. I know they didn't back then. I don't know if they fixed it.
I don't think they do now.
Yeah. So there are caveats to using this. And I think that's really the only one. So something to be aware of. And another thing about PX includes is it stores the data that was originally on this PX include, but notice it actually came in. Yep. There is custom in here, but notice it still has damper position on there and it shouldn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that and bring it back in. Let's see here, widgets, and then read only point, select that guy. And then there we go. So now I can just come in here and I can change the color to purple. Which is nice, right? So you can make these reusable widgets, and these are configurable per page, right? So if you make one change, it's only on this PX page. So It gives you a lot of flexibility. And then we could say this is, we'll just say position. Let's see if that'll fit. And it does fit. And if it doesn't fit, we brought the font in. So we could say, that's a little too big. Let's just make that 16. And then bam. And that works. Another thing too, is if we bring in, say, damper position again, well, that's actually not doing it. That's interesting. What if I did something like that? It's still not doing it. I was going to show a bug, but it's not remembering that PX include what's
Remember,
added in
no
there.
bugs, only features.
Niagara's got a lot of bugs, lots of features, and we can make writable points. Right? There's a lot of things you can do. You can create set buttons and action buttons, and then the beauty of something like this is you can just drag all your say read only points, for instance. You can drag them all in. And do these. And I do these for call outs on floor plans, right? So I'll just drag them all out in one fell swoop, all the fan powered boxes for that floor, maybe in chunks of 5 or 10, right? So they fit on my screen when I drag them in. But that allows me to just, right, bring all these in immediately. And they all have custom names. So
yeah, I
the
really
only,
like that.
the one thing that kind of sucks about PX includes is you can't relativize that. So everything has to be manually relativized, right? You're going to have to come in here and type slot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fast enough. It doesn't bother me that bad. Just the fact that I can format stuff, and reuse these things over and over and over again for consistent UI, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the only way to do a consistent UI. I would just be careful because you can get kind of carried away with PX includes, and the whole graphic can be a PX include where you double click this and this becomes an ORD. So we could unanimate all this stuff. Let's see, how big is this? Yeah. This is, let's just copy it, 652. And let's make this, I don't remember what it was, 1007. Which is a weird number.
It is the perfect number.
Odd and even. Okay. Let's get out of Zoom. Let's grab everything in here. There we go. All right, we're going to cut this, delete that, and paste this. And we could make this reusable, right? Now you could, and if you've got points, right? And if you've got a point naming convention that you stick to, that's super important. If you're going to make a reusable graphic, that this can be dragged and dropped into any PX view, right?
Yep.
And then just start working with just a couple clicks. What we can do is in the PX properties here, we can just do an ORD. So we're doing a string here. Let's switch that to an ORD, and then we can say fan status, right?
Yep. And
then we can add another one, and we can say damper position. And then we can add heat 1. And then add another one, heat 2. And that automatically does it. All right, so there we go. And then now we can just right-click and link that to heat 2. Yep. And then right-click and link. Oops. Where'd it go? Did I break that? Yes, I did. Let's copy that for now.
You featured it.
Yes, I did. All right, let's just paste some words in there so we have something. We'll grab our damper position. Niagara can be funny like that. Sometimes you actually have to give it some data or it'll get goofy on you.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
In certain circumstances, it will, especially if you're doing strange bindings. Okay, so it's actually showing heat 2 now. All right, so let's see here. Stage 1, this is stage 2. Yep, so we're going to say this is that right? Yeah, this is going to be stage 2. All right. And then we'll link this to 2. And then go back to the first one. That's linked. And then fan.
Probably want the heat 2 in the PX properties to be heat 2 as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to delete those.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it works because Niagara gets goofy. So this is fan command. Let's link that to fan status. And then this is our damper position. Let's link that to damper position. And then we're going to go ahead and kill all these. First, I'm going to save it.
Yep. Save early, save often.
Yes. And then we're just going to null these guys. And then we're going to save this. And then we'll create a whole new PX view. And we'll make, and we'll make this larger. So new PX file, and we'll call this fan powered box S for series. And then we can make this large. We can do 1600 by say 900, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then grab this guy and stuff him in here. Let's rename that. And then there we go. So now when we double click this, it just asks us for our ords. And all we have to do is copy and paste this stuff in there. So damper position, double click. We'll do damper position, and then we'll just paste this in here. This is fan status. So FAM status. Heat stage 1.
You probably want to change that to fan status too.
Oh, fan command. Whoops.
Yep.
And let's see. Let's just copy this. There we go. So now if we edit this and we actions, emergency active or fan, that should theoretically work. Didn't work. Typical. Oh, I know why. It's because I have a variable in there.
Yep.
Let me fix that. So, oops. Where's the include? There it is. All right. It didn't link it. And that happens. Fan status. There we go. Yeah, the links broke. I don't know why that happens. Do you know why that happens?
I don't know. I'd have to play with that one. I've got to play with that a little bit because that should have kept it. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one. But it won't be. It'll but it won't take long to figure that part out.
And then link this again. It's probably because I deleted the values. Probably wiped them out.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep, it's probably what happened. Let's save that. And then there we go.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. So, and if we slot this, right, and this becomes a view of that fan powered box, so we can copy that. It's view, new view, call it a graphic, that's fine. And then we'll just paste this guy in there or to use it. Now these hard ords can go away. We can just slot this, right?
Yep.
I probably could have just found and replaced in the bound ords, but it is what it is. There we go. And then there we go. This is reusable. You can drag it in there, and it doesn't matter what your point names are, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people don't do this. And the cool thing about this is this can be resized, right? So if we come in here and they're like, wow, can you re-render this, right? It's too small. This is a PX include. So we could say this can get twice as big and default 50% is small. Let's save it. And we'll come back in here, get out of edit mode. There it is. And then, say that this is taking up too much real estate. Well, we can make that smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to mess with animations. Everything's still there, right? We can turn our heat on. This is pretty powerful, and a lot of people should be. I linked both of them. Yep. Let's make that stage 2. There we go. Is that what I did? Stage 2, stage 2. Yeah. All right. And it is on. All right. Good deal. Yeah, you can make this as big as it'll allow you to make it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the power of PX includes. And I think people should be using PX includes quite a bit, especially if you're not using reflow, right, or some other front end add-on for Niagara to make Niagara more palatable and more modern. And you're messing around with PXs. You should be making a library of reusable PX widgets for your point name / point value. It can be as simple as what a point looks like when you drag this in here, and right, you do your bound label with your out dot value and your display name. Typically, make that a PX include, cut that,
Yep.
right? Create a new file, paste that in there, and then that way you can grab all your read-only points or all your writable points and drag them all in here. Pick that PX file, and you're done. And you don't have to worry about, can I have to move this around? And I think that it just workflow wise. Adding variables to your PX includes. You don't have to do PX properties, but you see how powerful you can make it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good. No, I think that right there, thank you for showing that, because it's not something that that people talk about a whole lot.
It's in the manual.
Yep. Well, agreed. But
yeah,
but you have to understand that, like, well, I mean, I know that you understand, but sometimes reading's tough, but like taking the time to understand that part, sometimes it rarely happens that way.
Well, I didn't know, and I didn't read it. I found it on a site, and I was like, my boss called me. He's like, "How did they do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know," And we ended up we ended up staying up to like 11 on the phone, me on my station, him on his, right? And they were doing these, these variables, and we were like, I don't know how they did this, and I think I pulled the 3.7 AX graphics manual out, and I looked up variable because I saw the variable field was filled out, and I just didn't understand the before and after, right? What was going on. And I looked up variable, and sure enough, there it was, how to do it. I was like, I got it. And I've been using them ever since, right? You see something like that, and if you're really creative, you're gonna realize, oh, I could do this, right? I could do that. Yeah, I could make these reusable, and then after 3 or 4 stations, you'll get your workflow down, and your station building will double, right?
Yeah,
the speed in which you build stations will double.